All right. Hello, Arash, can you hear us? I want to say hello, Jimmy. Hello, Amy, for the record, for those of us that are here. I guess
Yes.
maybe, Arash, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Oh, great. Okay, excellent. I think we're going to have Nancy coming in. Great. Hi, Nancy.
Good morning. Hi, how are you? Hi, y'all.
Good. So I just briefly talked to Jimmy and Amy. I guess maybe we'll wait a few more minutes to see if there are any other last stragglers coming in, and then we'll record the rest for the rest of the students that are not able to make it today. So Jimmy here is from Adelaide, Amy's from Sydney. Arash, where are you from?
From Sydney.
Oh, great. Excellent. And yourself, Nancy?
Same. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Three insiders. Excellent.
What about you?
Oh, I'm in Sydney. I'm on the Kensington campus.
Oh, lovely.
So if you guys are ever around, let me know.
I'm not too far. I'm just in Coogee.
Yeah. Oh, great. Excellent. So maybe today's meeting will be relatively short unless you guys have lots of questions, but we'll just go over the introductory call, introducing data analytics and decision making, and welcome. And hopefully you guys will get to know each other both here and online. And so I think you guys, we introduced everybody here very briefly. If anybody else comes, we'll just have to wait until the end. We'll have a few more calls or office hours during the course of the term, and we can have more if needed. And if there are gaps in knowledge, just raise your questions, and happy to answer any questions that you guys might have that pop up. So why don't we, for today, just go through what we're going to cover for data analytics and decision making. So very briefly, as I was telling Jimmy earlier, we're going to squash two different subjects into one, so we can get a lot of you who are looking to manage or get into a data-driven organization, how we can get sort of this buffet of different subjects all into one. So it's going to be a little bit challenging for some who may not have had statistics before, or maybe it's been a while, maybe a decade or two in some cases. But we will make sure that we keep everything at a very introductory basic level. So we have all the basic building blocks. We're not going to do any fancy calculus or anything, but there will be some formulas, there will be some very simple algorithms, but we will walk through business applications, how you can apply these formulas and so forth. And we'll explain why they're important. And we've cut the bare minimum of these formulas. So even if it might seem overwhelming, just bear with us, because it will come into play not just throughout this course, but also for those of you that will continue on your MBA journey. It will come up in a lot of your other courses if you haven't encountered them already. And when you're talking to stakeholders, oh, excuse me, there are a few more people. When you're talking to stakeholders, it'll be really important, whether they're your direct reports or people above you or your peers, just having that language and that fluidity is super important. And hi, Olivia.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Maybe because it's a small group, I'll just briefly, so Jimmy, Amy, Arash, and Nancy. Amy, Arash, and Nancy are from Sydney, and Jimmy's from Adelaide. And Olivia, where are you from?
I am from Sydney.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, another one.
Yeah.
I'm also in Sydney, on the Sydney Kensington campus. I was just telling them very briefly, just introducing them to the course. I'm going to record this for those that cannot make it. So I just went through the basics of sort of what we'll cover in data analytics and decision making. And now we'll sort of just briefly go through the logistics of the course. If you have any questions, I know some of you may have already raised some. So why don't I first just go through the announcement and allow a little bit more color here. So the first thing I wanted to highlight is that units 1 and 2 of the ebooks are already released, and 3, 4, and 5 will be released very soon, or 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're just waiting for the ebook team to get that out. But it doesn't mean you start doing some other pieces. So for those of you that feel like you might need a refresher on the statistics or a refresher on some of the basics of data analytics, I really suggest you start the decision-making simulation, which is starts in Unit 2, but you can start it now. And it just gets you familiar with the concept of data analytics, and you're going to learn by doing it. And we think that by doing this simulation, it'll set the context and set the motivation for you guys to work through the next few units, which in my opinion can be sometimes the hardest for those that don't have a statistics background or feel or have not had enough exposure or it's been a long time. So this will hopefully motivate you to work through those issues or work through those challenges, I should say. And for those of you that have an engineering background, a science background, or finance background, you'll probably find this very, very simple. And for that reason, in the week 3, we'll have the Harvard Quantitative Methods and Regression module, which you can test out of if you have taken these courses before. And just as a raise of hands out of this group here in the live session, how many of you guys feel like you could get away with doing a regression course, or you guys, I'm just curious, how confident you guys feel about taking that test? And there's no right answer here. Okay, that's fine. That's cool. No, actually, it's great for me to just sort of calibrate to what level we're here. So that's fantastic.
Did anyone put their hands up?
I was looking for that thumbs down button.
Yeah.
That's perfect, because that's actually, this is what this course is tailored for. It's an introductory course. So the Harvard Quantitative Methods and Regression module, I would also suggest you guys to get on it as soon as possible, for those, especially for those that you feel like your work schedule might be getting a little bit tight around that area. Just start it now so you can go at a leisurely pace. It's not super difficult, but it'll walk you through it. It is a nice interactive session. So it'll go for three units for 3 weeks, and at the end of it, we'll test you. And I believe in our syllabus, I don't want to quote you something wrong, but from my last recollection, I'll just make sure. The due date for this is Friday, March 11th, and it's 15% of your assessment. So for those of you that are going to take it, the score that you get here is what you're going to get. And then if you guys want to just go through the pre-test and want to pass out of it, you'll take it, and then the score that you get up will serve as your assessment on this part of the course. Maybe I'll just pause there for now and just sort of see if there are any questions at the moment. Okay. At any time, you can just raise your hands. Okay, great, perfect. Okay, so I'll go back to the order of things. So just to reiterate, so I highly suggest you guys, within the first 2 weeks, start the decision-making unit, the simulation, and end by unit 2, week 2. And then if you want, you can start the quantitative regression module as quickly as possible. And then that sort of forms the bulk of the first half. Now we'll supplement units 3 through 5 with some very basic probability concepts. We'll also walk you through some very basic probability distributions. And it might feel a little bit, it can feel a little bit overwhelming sometimes if you haven't seen it for a while or you haven't seen it before, but we'll walk you through it. And I'll also host another office hour around that time to go over any questions you have. And then week 6, we'll go through a unit specifically just on decision making. Although we will intersperse decision making throughout the lectures or throughout the units. And then around that time, I think in week 7, we'll have another assessment. And let me just bring up when that's going to be. So the next assessment there is going to be, it's an online test. It's open book. It'll be likely 30 questions. And it'll be 25% of your entire grade. The length of the assessment is 1.5 hours, and it's April 1st. Week 7, and so we expect you to finish by midnight Sydney time. And so that test will cover more on the basic probability concepts, the probability distributions, and some very simple decision-making scenarios. So this first part of the course, first half, I would say, this first half of the course and a little bit more is going to be setting you up for the later part of the course, where now that you understand the basic concepts, the frameworks, and sort of the tools that we use for data analytics and decision making, we'll now sort of move into the data storytelling and the visualization of data and how you tell those stories, not just understand what a direct report might report to you, but also how you communicate to your peers, your stakeholders, and or board. So weeks 7 and 8 will mainly be focused on Tableau, and we'll go through a little bit of the mechanics, but we'll expect you to sort of do that mainly on your own. And I think there are some tutorials there that should be fairly easy for you to pick up. I don't know if any of you guys use Excel's BI, but in some ways people think it's even simpler to use. It's one of the ones that a lot of companies use, including the big 4 consulting companies like McKinsey. So for that reason, we're using Tableau as the tool here, but it could very well be any other software tool. But we'll teach you the principles of how to use any of these tools. Then we'll finish off the course with a little bit of an introduction to machine learning and artificial intelligence, just to get you guys up to speed. Obviously, it's a little bit ambitious to put, machine learning and artificial intelligence, especially for those that don't have much of a statistical background, to do it in two lessons. And for that reason, we're going to keep it very high level, and we will try and introduce some very basics, programming languages such as Python, and give you some very simple exercises. We won't expect you to have the experience of a developer. It'll be very simple, and we'll hold your hand through that experience. And I don't know, I'm just curious, out of this room, has anybody had any programming experience before? Oh, great. Okay. But so I think it'll be very simple, for you, Rosh. And so, but for the rest of you guys, we'll make sure to get you up to speed. And then we'll sort of more talk about the application of machine learning, our applications of artificial intelligence, and how it applies in the business setting, and sort of what are the up and coming trends that you should look out for. So I think, let me just sort of, I think the last piece of this are the last piece of the assessments. So we've gone through the assessment for the quantitative methods and the regression module. We've gone through the online test. The other piece of this is the final assessments, as well as the participation. So for the participation, the way let me just go through that right now. Let me go through that link. So in your Moodle, you'll see in the discussion forums, we're going to start opening the forums on February 21st of week 2. And so the general instructions we'll have a prompt. And then in that prompt, we'll have you to take, one side, like a pro or con side of like, hey, here's an example of where intuition works, and here's an example of where intuition fails, and this is a way, or here's an example where a data-driven approach works, or here's where it might fail. And then we'll just ask you to post a 150 to 200 word post with at least with one reference. It can be academic, it can be organizational or industry reports, or it can be a news article. And then we'll expect you to write a quick analysis or reply to another student that is limited again to about 100 to 150 words. And you can have a maximum of 3 replies per week. And the reason we asked you guys to, we've been, I think based on past experiences, if it gets to anything more than 3, I think the forum gets a little bit unwieldy. And as you guys are all busy professionals, I imagine, sometimes it's difficult for you guys to keep track of the threads. And so in this way, we're going to keep it as concise as possible. And let's try and keep your points punchy if we can, is sort of what we're looking for. And try to avoid like, oh, yeah, that's a great point, or yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Try and keep away from those really simple responses. Try and come up with something meaningful and thoughtful. without being too worried. So sometimes you might need to consider a little bit, take a little bit more time to think about like what the point is you want to make, what side of the argument you want to take, and how you're justifying your thinking. And through this process, just to sort of see your thought develop over time. So typically the pace and the cadence for these participations is we'll open up on a Monday, and then your original post will be due by Friday, and then you'll have about 2 days before the form closes on Sunday to reply to a classmate. In terms of the standard that we're looking for, I don't know if we have any examples right now, but I'll look for them. You know, I'll see if I can share them from past examples if you guys are looking for them. But I think basically we're just looking for thoughtful discussions, and so we're not. And the purpose of this online participation, as I might have mentioned in the announcement as well, is we've weighted at 30% for the following reason. So number one, we spread it out over a large number of weeks. So really, each week, just in case you're busy, if you miss one participation week, like it's not going to count a lot towards your final grade. Number two is we don't want to overweight some of the final assessments or some of the tests, because if for whatever reason you don't test well or you don't do well, you still have that buffer. So, and then I think the other piece of this is that at the end of the, or what we're really looking for is just basically small, consistent effort, and just seeing that you're participating and you're helping move the discussion forward with your peers. Maybe I'll pause here. This might be another time to pause just to see if there are any other questions at the moment. Yeah, sure.
Come on,
Olivia.
yes. Not on the discussion question. However, with the regression model, you said to start that earlier. Does that mean you can test it as many times as possible before you actually complete the final assessment?
That's a really good question. I don't have the answer to that right now. I'll find out for you. I believe you probably can run the test multiple times, but I don't know. Like, I think if you're doing the test, the pre-test, I think you can do it multiple times if you want. But I believe if you're going to do the final assessment, I don't know if you can. Let me get back to you on that. I don't know the answer to that.
Sure. And just to confirm, the pre-test is the one about the brand manager, correct?
No. That's for the regression, actually.
That is, okay.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Okay. Which is week 2.
Yeah, and then for the simulation, that's really for your own benefit. It's really just to sort of walk yourself through this process, especially because this is we're not doing a case study in person. This is probably the closest we can get to sort of that that method. Really have you think through and sort of set yourself in the right frame of mind for the rest of the course on how you're going to think about how you're going to use data analytics and decision making in a real world situation. So that's the purpose of the week 2. We won't necessarily test you explicitly on it, such as we would for the Harvard quantitative methods and regression module, but there'll probably be a little bit of those aspects in the other assessments. So it's worthwhile for you to spend some time on it.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions before I move on? I think we'll wrap up pretty soon here. Let me just find out where I'm here. Okay. So for the final assessment, I think is probably the last thing that we're going to touch upon. So here we have it broken down into data storytelling part A and data storytelling part B. And the part A is the video submission, and then the data story is part B. These are together just worth 30%. They're basically one and the same. One is the video is just basically you presenting your results, and part B is the actual report. So that includes, your presentation of it, whether it's Tableau, and if you're ambitious, you want to add something in Python, that's basically a report that you would present to your either supervisor, your, to your report, whoever it is. That's just an artifact that you're going to present. And those two will be together 30% of your grade. So it's not like one is it's not like they're both 30%. It's not, and one's not just 15% and the other thing. It's like together we're going to evaluate them together. I think the key thing here is for the video, we'll run through this again when we get to that point. But essentially, you'll present your situation, what the complication is, what the opportunity problem set is, and then sort of your recommendation based on the data set that you've looked at. And we're going to encourage you to find a data set that is interest to you, whether it's just a personal interest or something that something that nagged you in the past, in your past organization, or something you want to do for your future organization. So I think with that, we wrapped up the assessment part. And I think, as far as I can tell, I think those are sort of the main logistical issues that I wanted to cover today. Are there any other logistical, admin, or even questions about the course I can help answer at this point? I'll turn the table and the floor to you guys.
Yeah, I've got one. In terms of if you've got any questions, do we individually email them to you, or would you have a section in basically Moodle where we can actually just write a question and you can answer it on that? Yeah,
I think there's a Q&A forum. You can ask general questions there about the assessment of the course. If there are other things that you want to ask, you can also DM me. I believe I put my email in the announcement. So that, yeah, I think either way is fine. Does that help, Jimmy?
Sure does, thank you.
Cool. Great. I think maybe the remaining 5 minutes or so, we can just hang out, or if it needs to be longer, I'm happy to stay even longer. I've set this just for an hour, just in case there was a lot of questions, but really this is just going to be a 20-30 minute quick introduction to the course, quick introduction to the flow of the course, what we're going to cover, and of course covering the logistics, the assessments, the administrative side of things. So feel free to hop off at this point. If there are any other remaining issues, just feel free to.
Maybe just a small one on
Yeah,
the
sure.
group assessment. I know it's a pretty small class, this one. Are we envisioning like a smaller group of like 3-4 people, or does it go 5? Do we
Yes.
have a view yet?
Yeah, so we're going to see what happens with after the census, and what happens after then. And then after that, most likely you'll definitely buddy up. I would highly suggest you buddy up and pair up, especially when you get to the Tableau part, where some of you may not have any experience with Tableau. And then if we get into the Python area, some of you may have had no experience. I suggest you guys buddy up to pair up. So at least you will pair up. In terms of the final group, it will probably be groups of 3 or 4.
Okay,
Depending
smaller
on-
groups.
Yes, exactly.
That's good. Thank you.
And I will likely be the one to arrange for the group setting, or I'll probably arrange, unless you guys feel like you can communicate to me by email, like, hey, I want to work with this person or something, or, I can also arrange that as well.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think for this first introduction, we'll keep it short and sweet. The next office hour will be around week 5 or 6, and I'll put that in the announcement. And then I'll probably host like very short office hours if there's a need for it before any assessments. Just let me know. Just ping me. Say, hey, Lamont, it would be useful for me to have like a quick office hours, and then I'll host an office hour. And in general, I'm just curious, maybe while I have you guys here, what is a good time for office hours, do you think? weekends, weekdays?
This was good.
This was good. Yeah.
Evenings are
This was
good?
good.
I think this
What
is
was
the
it today?
one.
7? Yeah, 7 to 8.
Cool.
Oh.
After we put the
Oh.
kids to bed,
Yeah.
that works for me. And then very quickly, I'm just curious, maybe I'll just, well, have you here. It'd be very useful for me just to know, what are you guys hoping to, like, what's one thing, what's one concept or one framework, or I don't know, anything you guys that comes about, like, what's one thing you want to take away from this course? And we'll just go around from, whoever wants to volunteer.
I'll probably start off. Yeah, it's just basically, yeah, we get a mountain of data, but sometimes you don't know how to analyze it and how to report it. So for me, it's more in terms of understanding how to read data, how to report it up to upper management, and not like an idiot doing it. So that's probably the main thing for me.
That's perfect. Anybody? Let's go around.
Sure. I mean, I work in banking and I work at Conscious Loyalty for a very long time, but more in the product and commercial and marketing space. So I work with a lot of data analysts that run the codes for me. And sometimes I'll tell them what to do, but I suppose I wanted to go a little bit deeper. I don't know whether that's good or bad, but sort of, understand a little bit more about the coding or how the system works. So I feel a bit more fluent and fluid in the conversation.
Excellent. And just very quickly, what tools do you use, or what tools do your analysts use?
No, I know they present the data in Tableau.
Okay.
Quite
Perfect.
a lot, but I know they talk about the code. Is it a SAS code? I know
no.
but sometimes it's just Excel as well, but I would know what.
Yeah, that's fine.
systems
That's fine.
they use.
Olivia.
Yes. So I previously to work, now I work in consulting, but prior to that, I was actually brand manager. So I used to work with huge data sets, as you would imagine. And then obviously going into PwC, the consulting firm now, we use a lot of Power BI, Tableau. So we do currently use a lot of that already. So I guess it's just a good way to increase my knowledge.
Excellent.
Yeah, there you go.
Amy or Rush?
I will go. I have a sneaking suspicion that my organization believes it's data driven, but it's actually not. I would like to improve my own literacy with data so that I can start debunking a few things, but also just lifting my game. I think that's where I'm at. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Great. And how about you, Rush?
I think I'm a mix of everything that I heard here. So I'm trying to get a good understanding of the data, and sometimes the reports I get from different teams. And also at the same time, I'd like to be able to, at some point, be able to generate the reports or analyze some of the data that I'm working with.
Right. And what is, Amy and Arash, what are your companies that are?
I think like Olivia, I'm working for PwC Australia. I'm working as a senior project manager around the data platforms.
Great.
I work for Volkswagen Group Australia. So I work in education for the group, and it's a fascinating industry. It's going through a lot of change, and I think the data area is something that's really critical to the transformation that it's going through at the moment.
Right. Excellent. It's an exciting group of professionals here, and I really, I look forward to seeing how we can help, and looking forward to working with you guys.
What about you have a session?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
But sorry, before we go, what about you, Lamont? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I completely forgot about myself. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I've been talking to students all day today, and it's, my background is I've got quite a few hats, So the way I usually tell my story is I was trained as a biophysicist and a computational neuroscientist. I went to Stanford University and then Brandeis University and studied complex systems, how neural networks store memories, really nitty-gritty quantitative methods, but then moved on to doing a number of different things. Was a serial entrepreneur, and my last venture was funded by Stanford University. We did corporate innovation also with Johnson & Johnson. And I've consulted for a number of Fortune 500 companies. And so I'm interested in the space between startups and corporate innovation, and we always use data in a lot of our processes. My last startup actually was in an artificial intelligence and natural language processing platform. And so I've had quite a little practical and also theoretical experience in data analytics and decision making. So that's my background. And one of the things I'm looking forward to is learning also from you guys, what are the things that, you guys feel like you need in your industry, in your organizations, and how we can better serve you guys and give you guys the tools that you guys need to make better decisions, because I think we can all benefit from it. So maybe, I'm happy to hang around and chat, or any other questions. But I think it's 8:30 now. I'll stay here for like another 15 minutes, and then we'll just sign off for now. I'll stop the recording now, so maybe it'll be also easier for everybody else. So let me just stop this now.